Hello friends, and welcome to a brand new video. Today I wanted to talk about something that has been bubbling and brewing in my brain for a while now, and that is the topic of aesthetics and cores and how they hurt creativity and creative growth. If you are not chronically online like I am, you may be unaware of the aesthetic craze that has been going on for the past couple years. I was introduced to the whole aesthetic and core craze through a fashion lens. The internet's meaning of aesthetic isn't as different as what the word itself means, a combination of things that are pleasing to the eye. However, the internet does what it do, and it's really just taken that and cranked it all the way up to 100. And so now we have these pages that are dedicated to a certain atmosphere and hone in on that. So when you scroll on these Instagram feeds or other social media accounts, there's a tone overall, and these creatives will not drift far from that path that they've set for themselves. Same thing with cores, cottagecore, light and dark academia are kind of branches off of the whole core trend. To slap the word core onto something is to just say that that is the theme and that is what I am sticking with. The history of these aesthetics and cores, I can remember seeing them as far back as around 2014 on Tumblr with the whole pastel goth and what we refer to now as 2014 Tumblr with like the Arctic monkeys and fishnets and that sort of thing. There was also very much a certain photography style during those days, but with 2020 and everything that happened there, a lot of people turned to these creative worlds as escapism, and that was how cottagecore came to be. They're very surface level. I don't like to throw punk and goth into these aesthetics because those are subcultures that are built on community and culture, music. Aesthetics and cores are very surface level and shallow in comparison. Some people do take cottagecore as a lifestyle, and they will have their sourdough starters and their herb gardens, and that is their way of life, and they dress and produce content in order to communicate that. But there are also people who just go and they buy a flowy skirt and milk top and they say, oh, I'm a cottagecore girly, and that's not to come from a place of hate. That's just to say that they're very superficial in comparison to the emo, punk, goth subcultures of the past and present today. So that was my introduction to these aesthetics and cores. And as the years have gone by, I've not only got to witness them through a fashion lens, but also a photography content creator lens. There are many pages that are just dedicated to creating a atmospheric world where it's a person creating content and they stay in their lane. There's not a lot of experimentation. You know what you're getting whenever you go to their page. From a marketing standpoint, it's a great thing. I know when I see this creator, I know what I'm getting. When these aesthetics and cores first started, it was a very fun thing to be a part of. Now you had these keywords to put into these search algorithms in order to find things that you are interested in. If you are interested in Moomin and Jane Austen, you could easily find your group of people and find artists who were creating things and to fit into that cottagecore world. Same with, what's another one? Same with your dark academia. Whenever you're a young teenager, you don't really have the words to describe what it is that you're looking for, what you're becoming interested in. So to have other people kind of do that work for you, have the internet slap on these key terms, made it really easy to expose younger audiences and newer people into these worlds. So in that regard, it's a great tool to be able to have these silly terms that the internet has come up with. I myself and my photography used them a lot. I came from a world that was heavily reliant on cosplay photography, and I did a lot of experimentation in order to find my own photography style. As I started to branch away from that, I had no idea what I was necessarily interested in. So I heavily relied on a lot of films that I found inspiring. And so to be able to have these key terms to draw from after being inspired by films and being able to find other content creators, photographers, fashion enthusiasts to fit these worlds. Finding terms like Y2K. When I was alive in Y2K, I was a wee little bab and I had no idea except fuzzy memories of Happy Bunny and the McBling era. But without having adventured into the Y2K aesthetic tag, I would have never known what to call that. And so to be able to use these words and terms in order to experiment and find inspiration, it was a really great tool. But there are some negative sides to every good thing. You have your people who take aesthetics way too far. You have people who think that they have to have an aesthetic in order to be a complete, well-rounded individual. When I was growing up and getting into actually finding who I was in my own identity after high school, I felt like a piece of the puzzle was missing because I was interested in all of these things and the internet was telling me that that was wrong. You had to find your identity in one of these little boxes and fit everything into it. Your creative style, the way that you express yourself through your clothes and your interior, everything had to fit in that box. And for some people that works amazingly. There's the green lady in Brooklyn. There are rainbow decora enthusiasts, and for those people, they have found their box and they love it there. I'm just someone who needs a little more room for chaos, I suppose. I love to experiment. I like to discover, and it took a long time for me to realize that all of these aesthetic pages aren't what the real world looks like. And it's easier to say that than to make your brain believe it. As we are consuming content, that is what our brain perceives as reality. So for me, seeing all of these people have these dedicated aesthetics for their own creative worlds and creative expressions, and they are very talented people, and I absolutely love the worlds that they've created for themselves, don't get me wrong, but for me, that just wasn't working. So for me, it felt very limiting, and I felt that I couldn't experiment, and it took a while for me to just accept that the box I had put myself into was no longer authentic to who I was as a person. And I had to allow myself, give myself permission, which sounds bonkers and frankly bananas, in order to experiment in my creative zone. I feel like with these aesthetics and cores, we unknowingly put these limitations, these blinders on ourselves as we grow as creatives. And again, there's nothing wrong in finding where you fit in as a creative. But the other thing about being an artist and being a creative is that your voice is always going to evolve. There's always this conversation about art style, what it means to have an art style, and how you find that art style. And you can spend years dedicating time in your craft in order to find that. And what you will find at the end of that journey is that it is always going to evolve. Your interests, your inspirations are always going to change, and there is nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong with just finding what you like and hanging out there for a while. So while I do think that having these labels and taking them very seriously can be incredibly limiting, and I'm personally an artist who I hate to feel trapped in a box. If you know me, you have heard me say that so many times. I've probably said it a million times in my videos. I hate to be trapped in a box. And for me personally, I don't like when people ask, what is your aesthetic? Because I feel like I cannot be summed up in one word. It's very hard for me to pick 3 words that I think fully encompass who I am as a creative. And that's okay. And it's okay if you have your 3 words and they change over time. We are 3-dimensional human beings and we are meant to grow and adapt and evolve over time. So we've talked about the good, the bad, the ugly. Where is this all going? I've seen a lot of recent conversations about the fatigue with aesthetics and cores. A lot of people are really tired of how these corporations have latched onto it and now they're trying to create their own in order to market to us. and it's very inauthentic. And I think people are also kind of becoming aware to the shallowness of these aesthetics and are craving something with a little more depth. So I think what we are about to see is kind of a creative renaissance. I don't like to throw that word around too much, but I do think that we are going to see a new age of creativity. I think that people are going to be a little more focused on who they are and how they can reflect themselves in their art. I feel like there's going to be less of an emphasis on staying within your lane and more room for experimentation. So as you continue to create, I just encourage that we allow the shift away from these aesthetics and cores to happen and embrace the depth behind your creative voice. And I think that's where I'm going to end it here. I wrote many a notes down and I got a little derailed here and there at some points, but I hope you do find something in this conversation. I know I'm not the first person to talk about it, but I thought it would be interesting to talk about it more from a photographer's point of view. I've seen a lot of people in the fashion community talking about it, and I just thought it would be fun to add another layer to the conversation, a little bit of a different take. But that is all the time that I have for you today. If you stuck around to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate you being here. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers at the time of recording this, and that is absolutely bonkers to me. I am incredibly grateful. If I put you all in a room and had to speak in front of you, I would freak out a little bit. So whether you are new or old to the channel and have been watching me on my journey, I'm happy that you're here. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time that I have for you today. I hope you have a super lovely day. Until next time, bye.